Alright, so today I want to introduce you to the LC Blackmagic gene in ball pythons. I can almost guarantee you haven't heard of the LC Blackmagic. It's not that popular. As a matter of fact, if you actually go over to the Morphmarket site and look at the US version of Morphmarket and look through all the 180,000 plus snakes over there, you won't find one single LC Blackmagic. But if you actually switch to the European version, they actually have it listed over there. It was first discovered in Germany about 8 years ago. It's kind of an interesting gene. And it gets a little bit complicated because here in the United States we actually have a combination called the Blackmagic, which is pretty popular. And that Blackmagic is actually the combination of the Black Pastel and the Mojave. So this is completely different. This is actually one single gene, the LC Blackmagic. And as far as what I can see with some of the combinations and the single gene and the super, it looks like it's a dark gene. It's really super dark. And if you actually look at all the dark genes in the ball python industry, I'd say probably the darkest gene of all the dark genes is the blackhead, and it almost looks like the LC Blackmagic is even darker than the blackhead, which is pretty amazing. So today I want to jump over the internet and I want to show you all about the LC Blackmagic ball python gene. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on morphmarket.com and I want to start with this snake right here. This is typically what we think of when we think of the Blackmagic. This is actually the combination of the Black Pastel and the Mojave. I actually did a video on the Blackmagic. It's a pretty awesome combination. And it's kind of interesting if you actually look at the LC Blackmagic, the super version of it, it almost looks like the Blackmagic with the combination of the Black Pastel and the Mojave. So this is what we typically think of when we think of a Blackmagic, but there's another one. It's just one single gene. And take a look at this. I actually pulled this one up over here on the World of Ball Pythons. This is the LC Blackmagic. Kind of interesting. And at first glance, it looks like a really dark normal. So if someone actually handed me this snake, I think, yeah, that looks just like a normal ball python, but it's really super dark. I'd say kind of similar to the blackhead. The blackheads can look pretty normal, but they're really super dark. And the interesting thing is, if you actually take two LC Blackmagics and breed them together, 25% of the time you actually make the super. And take a look at what the super LC Blackmagic looks like. That thing is unbelievable as far as a dark gene, just a super. And when it comes to supers, especially with dark genes, I'd say this is, I'd say it's probably on par with even the super blackhead, maybe even darker than the super blackhead. It's pretty amazing, and it kind of wipes out all the pattern on the side, and you're left with this little pinstripe stripe all the way down the top of the snake, which is kind of an interesting combination. You can definitely see it definitely has a lot of potential just as a super. And I haven't seen a lot of stuff with the super mixed into it, but it would be kind of interesting to see other genes mixed into the super LC Blackmagic. So take a look at this. I actually wanted to show you some other genes with the LC Blackmagic worked into it, and one of those is the pied. This is what a pied looks like. The pied's actually a recessive gene, so you need two copies of the pied for a visual, and essentially what the pied does is it brings these big splotches of white all through the snake. And if you actually add the LC Blackmagic to the pied, essentially what it does is it darkens all the colored part of the snake. So this is just a pied. Here is the combination of the LC Blackmagic and the pied, which is pretty interesting. It really darkens the pied. And the first thing I thought of when I actually saw this combination is the Black Pastel pied. If you actually take Black Pastel and work it into a pied, you get kind of a similar dark color pied. And you know what you can make with the Black Pastel pied? You can actually shoot for the super Black Pastel pied, and that is the Panda pied. I actually wanted to show you this right here. This is one of the craziest looking snakes in all of ball pythons. This is actually the combination of the super Black Pastel and the pied, known as the Panda pied. And a lot of people, they actually are looking for alternatives to this snake, so you can actually try to make this snake using different genes. So the problem with the super Black Pastel by itself is a lot of times you'll actually get some duck billing on the snake. Sometimes it kind of flattens out the mouth and kind of makes it look kind of like a duck bill. And there's, you know, some people say you have a higher frequency of a potential kink in the spine. Some people say that you can get kinking in the spine or the duckbill with the super Black Pastel, although you don't always see it. I'd say it's a pretty low amount of, you know, frequency as far as the defects in the gene. But a lot of people actually working on the Panda Pied project, they're actually looking for alternatives. And kind of the other kind of an issue with the Panda Pied that a lot of people have is when you actually make the super black pastel with the pied and make the Panda Pied, a lot of times you get a white snake or a snake that is mostly white with just a little bit of black. As a matter of fact, this is probably the most black that I've seen on a Panda Pied. I've actually seen other people use the super mahogany, which is a really dark gene, and try to make the same exact snake, but I've seen the super mahogany pieds known as the Suma pieds, and it looks similar to this, but I'd say the Suma pieds aren't as jet black as the black. This is almost like an inkjet black on this one, and some people thought, well, let's take the Suma pied and add black pastel, just one copy of the black pastel gene, which, you know, just the single gene by itself doesn't have any issues, and they're trying to reproduce this. And the first thing I thought was to take the LC Black Magic, the super version, and work it into a pied. Maybe you could actually reproduce the Panda Pied with that gene, which would be kind of an interesting project. So here is the Mojave. The Mojave is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, and it's kind of a dark gene by itself, but it has quite a bit of color and a lot of contrast. It's actually almost looks like a dark version of the lesser. And if you actually take two Mojaves and breed them together, you get an all-white snake with bright blue eyes. It's pretty amazing. And if you actually take the LC Black Magic and work it into the Mojave, take a look at this. It really changes the Mojave, really darkens the overall appearance of the snake. I'd say this is probably even darker than some of your blackhead Mojaves. Really super dark. It's pretty amazing the effect it has on a lot of these genes. So here is the Bumblebee. I actually found a few more examples working LC Black Magic into some combinations, and one of them was the Bumblebee. This is actually the combination of the pastel, which is a yellow gene, and the spider, which gives you this really crazy pattern. And when you work the LC Black Magic into it, essentially what it does is it darkens the snake, and it darkens all the black spots and the pattern of the snake. So take a look at this. This is actually a Bumblebee with the addition of the LC Black Magic. So you can definitely see in a lot of your combinations, it's not really overwhelming like you'd see some of your genes, like for example, in a lot of champagne combinations, it can completely overwhelm it. So it's kind of nice. You can actually darken the gene, the combination, but it doesn't really overwhelm the combination like some of the genes. So I'd say it has a lot of potential as far as one of the new up and coming genes in the ball python industry. All right, so here's the last one I wanted to show you, and that is the combination of the pinstripe and the LC Black Magic. And when it comes to the pinstripe, I'd say it's definitely one of my favorite genes. As a standalone gene, it's really super bright gold in a lot of cases. I've actually produced some pinstripes that don't even look real. It's pretty amazing. And essentially the pinstripe, a lot of times it'll actually have almost these like scrunched together alien heads on the side of the snake. And a lot of times it'll actually have a really strong stripe right down the back of the snake. And when it comes to visual dominance, working pinstripe into other combinations, a lot of times the pinstripe is really visually dominant. Sometimes it's hard to get other genes to break through the pinstripe. And here's what happens if you take the pinstripe and work in the LC Black Magic. Take a look at this. This is kind of an interesting combination. It really darkens the pinstripe. This combination is actually called the Jaglion. Kind of an interesting name for this combination. And you can definitely tell the effect of the LC Black Magic really darkens even the pinstripe. It has quite a significant effect on it. And you can tell it really breaks up the pattern on the side, which is pretty amazing. I'd say as far as a dark gene, this is probably one of the best dark genes that I've ever seen in ball pythons. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Mel Teague asks, is that a scar on top of Bobby's head, or is it his normal pattern? And that is a very good question. So the snake that I have around my neck here, this is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. He is a 7-year-old male. And kind of the interesting thing about this snake is he does have a pattern on top of his head. And it seems like the pattern keeps changing every single year. It seems like he gets more and more spots on top of his head. And as far as any scars, he doesn't have any scars. I've never fed Bobby a live rodent. He's always eaten frozen frozen thawed, no problem at all. Sometimes he'll actually go a few weeks without eating, but he always kind of picks up the eating after a while without losing any significant body condition. So I've never had to even attempt feeding him alive. So no scars at all on Bobby. And if you actually take a look at his head, it's kind of an interesting pattern on the top of his head. He's getting these little black spots, which seem like every year he gets more and more of these little black spots on the very top of his head. You can kind of see right there. I don't know what that is from. It's kind of weird that he didn't have it at all when he was young. As a matter of fact, you can actually go over to morphmarket.com and search the bamboos that were sold and search by the oldest bamboo. And Bobby is actually listed over on Morphmarket. That's where I bought him at. I bought him as an adult. I think he was about 1,300 grams when I bought him. And there's a really good picture over there. You can actually go over there and look at his head over there compared to his head now, and for some reason he's gained a lot of those little black spots on his head over time. It's just kind of one of the weird things about Bobby. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.